Everybody. My name is Taylor and I'm the engineering event assistant for UBC Engineering. And so I would also just like to take the time to recognize that I'm currently located on the Vancouver campus and would like to recognize that we're on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And so thank you everyone for joining us today. And so this session, we're going to be discussing the first year experience, including what to look forward to, ways to make friends, and also the transition into first year. So please make sure to use the chat to comment with any questions you have so we can answer them. So I'm also very lucky to be joined by two current students with me today. So Megan, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you, Taylor, for having me today. I'm going into my fourth year of chemical and biological engineering, and I'm originally from Ontario, but I also lived in Indonesia for 5 years, so I went to an international school, and I also did IB before coming to UBC Engineering.
And Brayden, could you also introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Brandon. I'm going into my third year of mech, and I've been born and raised in Canada, grew up in Vancouver, and throughout high school, I had the same teacher every year, which is kind of fun.
Okay, so thank you so much for both joining me. And so we have a lot of questions typically about like the difficulty of engineering and how students are able to balance like the rigorous academics, but with also like clubs, extracurriculars, and also like a job. And so I'm just like curious to hear like both of your experiences with this. Brandon, could you like tell us more about it?
Sure. I found the best way for me to manage this was to start things as early as possible. So try to not procrastinate, because the earlier you start, the more time you have to answer questions and get stuck, which will inevitably happen in university. And then on top of that, also trying to have some sort of calendar or to-do list ongoing of what you have to do. So you kind of budget in time, not just for homework, but also to take time for yourself and go to your job, participate in a club, or just hang out and relax. So, yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of the time people have like a stereotype that like engineers don't really have a social life. So do you have any like comments on this?
I would say they do have a social life. But having said that, it will depend on your academic goals a bit. So if you want to get 90%, you're gonna be sacrificing a bit of your social life compared to someone who wants to get 70. That's just kind of life in my opinion. But having said that, it is completely untrue. Everyone will have some sort of social life in university. I found personally in my first year, the main way I socialized with others was first at the beginning and ends of class. Like you just sit down, say, hey, how's it going? That homework problem was tough, just the small talk kind of thing. And then also for more involved socialization, I guess, I was part of a design team where I would hang out with them for about 10 hours a week throughout the week and just work on engineering and like a big engineering problem that we all worked on, but also just hang out with them and talk. So there's definitely time to socialize, and it's definitely untrue that we just lock ourselves in a room and study all day.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And also, so Megan, what would you think about the stereotype?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's going to be points in your career as a student in first year that there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to socialize. Maybe you have a midterm and you need to study, or it's final season and you're going to need to be focusing on that. But I feel like that's the same case with any degree. You're going to have papers to write, tests to take. So even though it is a stereotype with engineering, because we do have a heavier course load, you'll definitely have a social life. As like Brendan said, like you'll chat with your classmates before or after class. Maybe you have an hour break in between classes and you're just walking around campus, catching up with people who are in the same standard timetable as you. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. And same thing with Brendan, like I was in a design team in my first year and I also had a part-time job. So in addition to doing school, I also had those extracurricular activities going on, which is a really great way to de-stress, to apply what I was learning in school, but not be doing school at the same time, specifically like with the design team. But yeah, no, you can definitely have a social life, even in engineering. Just have to make sure you manage your time correctly if that's something you want to prioritize.
And so Megan, because you're so involved, like how was your experience like balancing like your social life, but also like your design teams and like all the stuff you were involved in?
Yeah, I mean, at times it is really difficult, just because if you have like midterms or finals coming up, it can be a lot. But personally, I've prioritized doing extracurriculars and getting as much out of my university experience as possible, throughout, not just in first year, throughout my entire degree so far. I've been involved in a lot of programs and a lot of clubs. I've personally gained a lot from that because of the connections that I've made. Specifically, like a big part of connections is networking, meeting new people, and that also, like, in addition to my social life and spending time with my friends, those extracurricular activities that go and joint with that. So, oh yeah, I have to go work on my design team, but most of the time I'm listening to music and I'm chatting with friends and we're having a lot of fun while we're working on said projects. And though my time's busy, it's still social in a way. So you can always pick those extracurricular activities that are best for you, to your hobbies that you'll enjoy and have fun. But you can also just have a general social life as well. For me, what's worked best is just managing my time, as Brandyn kind of talked about, those time management skills. I have a calendar, like a book that I write everything down in, an agenda. That's what it's called. Words escaping my mind. Yeah, I have an agenda, so I keep track of everything that I have to do for school, for my extracurricular activities, and depending on, hey, maybe I do have a lot going on, and that's just me personally because I made that decision to take on all those extracurriculars. I make sure to plan out my time to make sure that I'm successful in everything that I do.
Right. Thanks. And so also a lot of people I think are really curious about like the transition from like high school to university. And so like Brandyn, do you have anything you'd like to say about that?
Sure. Oops. Yeah, we're good. I would say it came in waves for me. So like just getting to university and getting acclimatized to going to class and stuff like that was definitely a big jump from high school. It was just a different style of learning, I guess. Like you're in a big room with a bunch of other people, not just a classroom. So that was definitely a jump for me. And it took me about a few weeks to get used to all that. And then once I got used to that, homework started coming out and they were a lot harder than high school. They took a long time to do sometimes, and you didn't get it right the first time, or I didn't. So it took a while to adjust the homework as well. And then once the homework, you got used to homework, it came around to midterm season and you have to start studying for midterms. And midterms are really tough, especially for me to get, they're a lot different than high school exams, a lot more critical thinking involved, not just A plus B is C. So I actually did really bad on my first midterm because I studied for it like a high school midterm. So I got like 60 or something, like not good. So, but I used that experience to learn. So I think that was a big thing now that I've been talking about this, just learning throughout the steps and not getting down on yourself because that one assignment didn't go well. So I'd say it was definitely a hard transition. It took a lot of hard work to get used to the university learning. But once you get into it, it's pretty smooth, I'd say. And then I guess finally finals were not too big of a change for me. It was just like studying for a big midterm. So I don't think finals were all that scary. It was more midterms that were scary. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like a common experience that all first years go through, like regardless of like what university you're at, is just like kind of getting used to like what university demands are. And so there's also some questions in the chat. Just because this is related, how would you say that tests and assignments are a bit more different than high school in like both of your opinions? Or just like feel free to jump in.
I would say homeworks are, oh, it depends. Math homework is normally just long, tedious integrations or differentiations, a lot of brackets. And then physics homework is normally not a lot of problems, but they're really involved problems. Like they they just aren't easy. I don't know if Megan, you have a better way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I did IB, so I was in a unique situation. So I did IB at a public school in Ontario. So even though I was in the IB program, I still saw some of what the public school curriculum looked like at the end of high school. For me in IB, the finals from IB were very similar. Not that you had multiple papers, but just the lengths that you had to write the exams for and how much they were worth. I was very used to that because of that program. I definitely would say midterms felt very weird. I also did do very good on my first few midterms. That's also completely normal. Even though I had done IB, which is intended to prepare you for university, I had to completely change my study methods as well as soon as I joined UBC. But I'd say the best way to think of midterms is just cut exam in half. It's the exact same length, but it's half the content. So it felt very weird to me to have to do a final, but midway in the year. It's not worth as much. It's only 20% of your final might be worth more, but just that's kind of the vibe or the environment that they are, in my opinion. That's why I think it's very different from just a test or a quiz, because that might be on very specific and small amount of subjects, where midterm might be, all right, you're halfway through the course, we're testing you on the entire half of the course, and it's in the form of a final. There are obviously differences between the midterm and final. I don't want to give off the impression that they're the exact same, but that's just kind of what I got from it after taking some in first year.
One thing to add to that too is I found the time constraint in university to be a big challenge. Sometimes the exams weren't the hard part, it's just getting through the whole exam in the time period was really tough. So that's another big change from high school, at least for me it was.
And
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. And so just kind of another question from the chat, which I'll direct towards Megan. So how did you choose your extracurriculars, and do you recommend choosing an extracurricular that doesn't involve engineering?
Yeah, so I chose my extracurriculars kind of based on hobbies or things that I found really fun, but then also how I kind of wanted to develop myself as an engineering student. So in first year, I'm involved in a bunch of different things now that I've gone through some more years of university, but in first year, I got a part-time job working at varsity for UBC varsity athletics. So I would work at all the home games, all that kind of fun stuff, cheer on the crowd, that kind of thing. And I personally was really into sports in high school, so I had a lot of fun doing that, getting to watch sports for free essentially while I worked the job, but also getting to interact a lot with the fans for the UBC Thunderbirds. And then I also did an intramural on the side just to get some exercise, because you can get so focused on school, sometimes you forget to, oh, maybe I should go on a run, or maybe I should go do something else. So I kind of did those activities to have some fun and to kind of continue with my hobbies. Not a lot of engineering students did those jobs, or mind you, a lot of engineering students do participate in intramurals. There's a bunch of different sports you can get involved in. That varsity job that I had, not a lot of engineering students did. So it was really nice to have something that wasn't engineering related and to get to meet people in other faculties. That was something that I personally really enjoyed. And then the engineering related activity that I got involved in first year specifically was my design team, which helped me develop more as a student, helped me gave me the opportunity to meet upper year students and kind of develop, because now I've been with the same design team for 3 years now, and I'm one of the co-captains. So that's kind of given me an opportunity to develop professionally and to continue to, I guess, hone or learn more about my engineering skills.
And so there's another question just about English and Humanities elective. And so just to say this, this is more to focus on the first year experience, because there will be a session hosted by Engineering Academic Services on the 24th to answer more like registration questions, but just curious for both Megan and Brandon, what type of humanities electives did you guys take?
I took Words 150. And I actually spoke to academic services about the same thing. And at least in Mac's case, they said to refrain from taking it in the summer, because if you do fail it, God forbid, you're not going to be able to take that English course that's only offered that term, right? So I was personally instructed to take it during the year. Your circumstances could be different, but that's what I was told. And then my other humanities elective, I took Econ 102, macroeconomics, and I took that over the summer, and it was okay. I'm not gonna say it was the coolest course ever, but it had some cool content throughout.
Yeah, for me, in my first year, I did English 112. I think that was before engineering students had to do Words 150. It was just your average English course. I did it during the school year just because I actually not had to take any humanities courses because my IB theory of knowledge class gave me university credits for that. So I haven't actually done those. So I can't offer any recommendations for humanities. I took my English course during the school year because I was only 6 and 6 and I had the space in my timetable. But obviously, as already mentioned, if you have any questions or concerns, go to the academic counseling and advising. They're the best people to talk to about this, especially if it's more to your unique situation, and get some personal advice.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different electives you can choose from. A lot of my friends did like stuff like econ or like creative writing. So like there's a lot of things that you can pick. And so there's another question kind of talking about residence. And so did you live on campus during your first year? And so they're just kind of hesitant because of like commuting and then just wondering about like residence life. So just curious if either of you guys lived in residence and how was like your experience with that?
Yeah, so I guess I can speak a bit to the, that's funny. I'm a residence advisor and I've been for the past 2 years and I'm going to be starting in September. So I don't mean to steal the thunder for this question. Yeah, what I lived in, so my family's in Ontario. So I did not be, I guess I can't really commute from Ontario to school every day. So I lived on campus in housing. I personally had a lot of fun. I met a lot of my friends there. There's a lot of activities and events that are run throughout the school year that are meant to offer fun and opportunities to de-stress to students, but also learning opportunities as well. I know because I've planned some of these events now as a residence advisor. But when I was in first year, I did participate in a lot of those. It was really fun. My RA has been like one of my mentors throughout my entire degree. I still keep in contact with her and I chat with her a decent amount, even though she's already graduated. And it's really nice to kind of be on campus because you're a lot closer to your classes. You'll have the dining hall as well. So I know living at home, you may have your family to cook for you, but there's also the dining hall, which makes things a lot easier. Yeah, I personally had a lot of fun. And as an RA, it's been really cool to see people come from all over the world and live in our residences and just to see the communities that are built in those residence areas. However, if you live an hour away from campus, I obviously am biased, but it's to everyone's own like personal situation. Like if you are worried about how you're not able to afford, or maybe that just doesn't work well for your family, or you need to be at home to support your family members, it is doable. I know I have some friends who live in Coquitlam and have commuted to campus every single day for the past 2 or 3 years for school. So it's not to say that you can't do it, but I have heard it is difficult, especially if you don't have your own car or you don't want to pay for parking on campus. I'd say like that's up to you and your family to talk about. Residence is a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people and you're right on campus. But if it's best for you and your family to be off campus in your own home, that's also the decision for you. Yeah, I guess that's my take on that.
Yeah, at least being in residence for me during my first year was very fun because of all the different friendships you get to make. And it's always nice when you come home from your classes and you have your friends on your floor that you get to talk to. And so also I feel like a lot of incoming first years kind of wonder whether or not they should prepare for the school year over summer. And so just wondering, Brandon, do you have like any recommendations for this, or did you do anything before you started your first year?
Um, Personally, I did nothing over the summer. I like quit my job and everything, and I just had like one last hurrah kind of thing. I just had a lot of fun over the summer. And I don't think it really hurt me at all. I think all the profs do quite a good job of teaching their courses and keeping you up to speed with the content. So I don't think there's a real need to do it. If you really want to do something over the summer though, I would probably recommend going over math. Because that's a course that I struggled with in first year, especially Math 100 differential calculus. That course was just for some reason challenging for me and challenging for a lot of people. So I don't recommend doing something over the summer because you'll be doing a lot of studying during the school year. But if you want to, I would do some math.
Definitely agree. And so just a quick plug also. So if you do feel like you do want to do some more academic stuff over your summer, there is a way to prepare. So there's the first year experience program, which is starting in July. And then there's also UBC's Academic Essentials program and also a Physics 12 refresher course, which is offered by the science department. And so just other things, UBC engineering does really have a great, amazing community. And so just kind of curious how you guys found like where you belonged on campus and where you felt the most homely. So yeah, either of you can jump in.
Well, I guess where I just felt most at home on camp, like as someone who's lived in first year residences for the past 3 years, I definitely feel that UBC in residence has become my home. I'm really grateful for that. I think definitely the community and the friendships that I've built have helped with that. Currently, as I mentioned, I am a residence advisor. I'm on a design team, and I work really closely with those in the CHIBI department. That's the chemical and biological engineering. CHIBI, that's a short form. There's a lot of short forms here at UBC Engineering. You'll learn all about them once you join us. Yeah, so I really built my community amongst my classmates, those I was working and living with, and that's kind of how I kind of came up with my home, or how I feel at home at UBC. There's so many ways to get involved, and there's so many things you can do. Maybe you don't want to become a residence advisor, or maybe you want to move to upper year residences. There's those as well after you live in first year. Or, hey, I want to get an apartment or a place with friends, and that can also become your new home environment and where you feel at home. Maybe you don't want to get involved in a design team. Maybe you want to go join another club that's not engineering related, and that's how you feel at home. There's so many communities and things to get involved in at UBC. I would say it's most likely that if you find something you love and there's something you're interested in, it's definitely here, and you'll be able to make yourself feel at home and included in the UBC community.
Yeah, I'd kind of just echo what Megan said. Just being on campus with all the other engineers is awesome. Just I don't know, I don't know how to put it. Like just going through first year together through all the ups and downs is it definitely builds community. More specifically, I guess I would say I'm still on a design team. And I do really feel at home there. Just, I don't know, we're just a cool group of people that all work on the same project. And it's not just a cool place, I'd say, to like do engineering work. Like I know Megan's mentioned it helps you like apply your in-class learning. It's also just a cool place to hang out and relax. Well, maybe not relax, but like blow off steam, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I'd say the biggest one is definitely just the UBC engineering community at large is awesome. It's a great community to be a part of.
And so you also mentioned that you were on a design team. And so just some questions about what experience do you need to apply to be on a design team?
We don't really look, at least my team specifically, doesn't really look for any experience in particular. Like you don't need any prior experience. I didn't, so I'm on a car team, I'm on Formula. I don't have any car experience. I've never changed out an engine or anything. Especially in first years, the main thing we look for is inspiration. Like, do you want to be on the team and are you going to be a committed, hardworking member? So if you have some experience where you can demonstrate that to us, that's awesome. It doesn't have to be specifically related to the team.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very true for a lot of the design teams. Also, if you're curious about design teams, there was a previous session that we did talking about them. But yeah, I definitely think that a lot of the design teams don't require that you have always like technical experience. They're just really looking to see like your passion and like why you're motivated to join that team. And so just another question is just asking about like networking and building connections with other people. So just curious, like in your degree so far, like Megan, how have you been able to build connections and kind of network with people and like kind of what that entails?
Yeah, so I feel like there's always like a stereotype put to like networking and building connection, like, oh, it has to be at this formal event, and I like pre-COVID or post-COVID, like shake their hand and be all like official and stuff. But honestly, that could just be meeting other people at events or clubs that you join. So building connections is also helping you network because as I'm getting close to the end of my degree, I've met so many people while being here at UBC, and as they were all like amazing classmates and people to work with. In the future, they're going to be connections or a network that I can build off of, reaching out to them. Hey, I see you're working in such and such industry. I have some questions for you. Or hey, I'm looking to work in this sector. Do you have any recommendations based since you're working at this company? So I wouldn't say throughout your degree, unless you are, I personally have not seeked out, oh, I'm looking for such and such connection and X, Y, and Z. It's just been a really great opportunity to meet more people. And by meeting those people and building those connections and networking, there's a bunch of different, strategies on how to make friends and build connections. Probably don't want to go into too much detail on that, but you can always just like, all right, how do I make a friend? How do I just have a casual conversation? Yeah, and then that's how I've personally built up my network and my connections. But obviously, there's other ways you can do that as well. That's just me personally.
Great. And then also just kind of one of the questions before we wrap up. So how exactly does co-op work at UBC? And do you have just any tips that makes yourself stand out more? So I personally don't have co-op experience. So if either of you want to jump in and kind of just share like your co-op experience, that'd be great.
I'm on co-op, but Brandon, if you are on co-op, feel free to take the question.
Yeah, I'm on my first co-op, so I don't know if I'm the most well-versed for this, so I will let you handle it.
Sure. I'm actually on my last co-op, so I'm almost done with my co-op program. Yeah, so the way co-op at UBC is essentially you have to do 4 co-op work terms, which essentially is just 16 months of working. Because you are doing 16 months, that does add an extra year to your degree. And essentially, once you do the 4 work terms, 16 months, you get a designation on your degree. It is a really great opportunity to learn from those working in the industry. I know I've thoroughly enjoyed, I've been off of school for the past year. I've thoroughly enjoyed working in industry and learning from professional engineers. You don't have to worry about that in your first year. You apply for that at the beginning of your second year, or if you don't want to do it in your second year, you can apply for it in your third year. So you don't have to worry about that necessarily in your first year. I personally did not decide that I wanted to do co-op until I was in my second year and the application was open. That information will be provided to you, so you don't have to worry about missing it or not being able to find it. Most professors or guidance counselors in department will say, oh, the co-op application is open, feel free to apply. Yeah, so to make yourself stand out, obviously just getting involved as much as you can. As Brandon mentioned, you could do a design team, which you don't have to have any previous technical experience. Doing that can help you stand out for applying to co-op jobs. Even just volunteering or doing extra clubs at school can also help. But I personally wouldn't worry about that until maybe like your summer or your second year.
And one thing to add to co-op, I know, Megan, you talked about building connections. Co-op's a great way to build connections with people in industry.
Great. And so unless we have any other questions, thank you all so much for joining us, and big thank you to Megan and Brandyn for sharing your experiences with us. And so we really hope this session was able to give you all like an insight onto the first year experience, and you can also continue to ask more questions in the first year Facebook group. And also you'll get a chance to speak with more incoming and current students in the first year engagement program. And so before we wrap up, I'll just ask if there's any advice you'd like to give yourself if you were in the shoes of our incoming students, and we can start with Megan.
Oh gosh, definitely some piece of advice that I would give myself in first year was grades aren't everything. I know that sounds very, very weird because it's university. Don't you want amazing grades? I found that the transition for me going from high school to university, grade wise, is very different. Was very used to getting those high 90 marks, always like top of the class. And then after a few midterms and assignments and all kind of stuff after first year, kind of noticed, okay, average isn't quite what it used to be, which is perfectly normal and perfectly fine. At the time, I obviously didn't realize that. I had a lot of internalization of, oh, I'm not doing as well as I should be, or stuff along those lines. But I slowly learned that that's okay. I am doing well, doing what I'm supposed to be, and I'm still here. I got into UBC engineering for a reason. And mind you, first year, in my opinion, is the hardest. My average has gone up throughout the years that I've been here at UBC. So I definitely would give myself that piece of advice that grades aren't everything in first.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, Brandyn, what would your advice be to yourself?
I would say to be patient. I know I was really hard on myself in those first few weeks about, I'm just not getting it. There's got to be something wrong with me. Kind of like what Megan said. Yeah, just patience in general with grades not being there at first. With, I don't know, you're just not getting something. It's hard. That's why you're here, I guess. Um, yeah, mainly just patience in general with yourself, with your grades, and don't be too hard on yourself. You will get it eventually.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences, and for everyone for coming to our session today. Thank you.